Thank you for listening to BizPod with me, Paul.
And me, Rachel.
Our weekly business English podcast where we talk about the news, social media, and hot topics from a business point of view. You'll get a podcast and links to the articles we discuss. This way you can share your thoughts too. Join us as we discuss what's on our minds this week.
Right, today we have a guest. It's exciting.
So who's our guest?
Our guest is Gary. Gary Britton. Gary, come on, introduce yourself to everybody.
So, hello, I'm Gary Britton. I'm very excited to be here. And I'm an English trainer, an English online trainer. I post quite a lot on LinkedIn. And I decided to launch a podcast of my own to go with it. So started that a couple of months ago. And it's designed to be a monthly podcast aimed really at German speakers. So it's called Business English for German Speakers. Very long title. But I think it explains what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say it does exactly what it says on the tin.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the
good.
point.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm trying to look at functional language really that German speakers will use in meetings, especially. So things like a bit of small talk and or giving presentations, using tenses correctly in order to do all that. So a bit of grammar, a bit of vocabulary and functional language. That's the idea.
Okay.
But you don't
good
just
luck with
teach...
your podcast.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You don't just teach Germans though, do you, Gary?
No, I teach people from around the world.
Yes.
All over the world.
Yes. And
Yes.
tell people where you are in the world, because our listeners know that we're in Italy. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm in the UK and I'm in the beautiful historic city of Oxford with its university.
Yeah. So Gary speaks proper English, not like us
Proper
from up
Oxford
north.
English.
You speak Oxford English, well done. Yeah, I don't speak English apparently because I'm from Manchester. I speak Mancunian.
Mancunian, very nice.
Manchester.
Yeah, excellent. All good Englishes.
Yeah.
Well, as usual, Gary's been very good and he's selected some articles, a topic for us to discuss today, because that's the usual theme that we have. But Gary, being the guest, has been given the honour of choosing. And tell us, Gary, tell everybody what topic you selected for today.
I've chosen the topic of the ban on petrol cars, what we might call ICE cars, ICE cars, internal combustion engine. And the ban on sale of new cars is coming, and it's coming more quickly than we think, especially in the UK. So I've chosen one article that looks at the ban in the EU coming in 2035 and a reaction to that, and the other on the UK where the ban is coming in 2030, only 5 years time.
Yep.
Yeah, only 5 years time. That's not long. That's not far in the future, is it?
It's really not long for everything to change.
Well, let's be open and honest first, Gary. Gary, what vehicle do you drive? Do you drive an internal combustion engine car?
No, I don't.
What do you drive then, Gary?
I've driven a Nissan Leaf for the last 4 years, which is a totally electric car. So I was quite an early adopter of electric vehicles.
Okay.
And what's your review? What do you think? Are you pleased? I mean, 4 years you've kept it, so I'm presuming you're pleased with it.
I've kept it. Yeah, I love driving the car because it's a fantastic driving experience. If you love accelerating, you're going to love driving an electric vehicle, and overtaking is a dream. So great to drive, and I've saved money on running costs. A lot cheaper to run, a lot cheaper to have serviced. On the
But
other
the
side,
upfront cost of buying the car, it's expensive to buy an electric car?
Well, a little. So, yeah, that's true. If you buy a new car, they're a lot more expensive, and people tend to focus on that. But I bought mine it was 3 years old used when I
Mhm.
bought it.
Okay.
And it was a little more, maybe 10% more expensive. Um, so not if you're buying cars second hand, I think they don't have to be a lot more expensive up
Okay.
I'm
front.
just looking up a Nissan Leaf. I've never heard of a Nissan Leaf.
Well, the
That's
leaf is
because you don't
green.
drive an electric car, H.
It's a nice car.
Yeah,
Hey, that is a nice car. It's an attractive looking car.
yeah.
So
So,
you mentioned that you're an early adopter.
mm,
Why did you become an early adopter of electric cars? Why did you choose that route? Let me sort of
yeah.
give you a little bit of context because
Oh,
a lot of people who are early adopters with electric cars, they're a little
mm.
bit smug about the fact that they drive an
I
electric
know,
car.
I
Yeah.
know.
Are you one of those?
Maybe. You know, it's easy to feel smug when you first buy one, because you're driving through town, not emitting anything at all, and you
Mhm.
think, "Oh, I'm being really green," and this was really the reason why I went in that direction to be as green as I possibly could. And I thought,
Okay.
well, if it's now possible, I'll do it. So, as you
Mhm.
say, I felt a bit smug driving around. But actually, you start to read that that's not the whole story because really, manufacturing batteries is quite energy intensive. And I think
Mhm.
uses a lot of water as well.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And of course, there are all the minerals that are mined to go into the batteries. So there are conflicting views about really over the whole life cycle of an electric car compared to an ICE car. Are they much greener? Are they really greener at all? I've read conflicting things, so I'm less smug now.
Okay. That's good. My honest opinion is, I mean, cars, they are very, very energy intensive things to build. Whether you're building
Yeah,
a traditional car with a combustion engine or an
yeah.
electric vehicle, the
Mm.
raw materials and energy required is so much. There's actually no way you can have a green car.
I
That's the
think that's probably
reality.
true. Yes, yes. I think
But
really to be
the car
green, you have to give up your
manufacturers,
car.
yeah, the car manufacturer and the government don't want us to think that way because then we would all give up our cars. But there's no such thing as green transport, I
Yeah,
don't
but
think.
okay,
Not
but
really, but go on.
you're not chugging all those fumes out into the air. That's the key thing at the end of the day. That's
That's
what
what
I would
pleases me
think.
about it. There is
Yeah.
that advantage. You're not actually polluting the environment. When you drive through the countryside, you're not
Mhm.
polluting it anymore. So that's
Mhm.
one win at least.
Can I
Well,
ask you a
okay, well,
sensitive? I'm
Ah,
I'm asking this. Where
okay.
do you get your electric from, Gary? Is your
yeah.
electric
Ah,
supplied
yes.
from a
That's
gas-fired
the other.
power station?
That's a really good question. I wish you hadn't asked me that because I don't know. I don't know.
You
It's
don't
not
know.
that easy to find out. No.
No,
Mm,
but that is another big sort of question because you, electric vehicles don't stop emissions, in my view. They just move the emissions to a different location because your electricity is probably generated through gas, coal, or oil burning. It's
mm,
just not being done
mm.
where you are. It's being done at a power station 200 kilometers away instead.
Yes, it's possible. We don't really know. Having said that, the UK generates a lot of its electricity by renewables now,
Mhm.
sometimes quite a high percentage.
Yeah, the UK also generates a lot of its electricity through burning waste, Gary.
There's some of
Hey,
that too. There's all of this is going on.
Paul, be
Yeah.
nice to our guest.
Well, I'm just making sure he doesn't leave us
Well,
feeling smug, but when we tell him what car we
yes.
drive.
You're just jealous. You're just jealous because we drive a Fiat, don't we?
Yeah, we've got a Fiat and it's petrol. I'm proud of
Right.
being a petrol head.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'm certainly not saying everybody should be buying electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
because there are lots of issues to think about
Mm.
if
Yeah.
people want to, because really the infrastructure isn't really there for
Mm-hmm.
everybody to buy
Okay.
electric cars.
But
Um,
they've got to do it though, haven't they? Somebody's got to move first to get the infrastructure to, otherwise they won't build it.
Somebody's got to, and it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, yeah.
The manufacturers don't want to build all the cars because the people aren't buying them, and the people aren't buying them in
Mm-hmm.
enough quantities because the infrastructure isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the governments are not really investing in infrastructure to make all this happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's
So,
turn to
mm,
the two argument that your two articles, because I
mm,
thought it was good that the UK article was basically saying that they want to bring the deadline that was pushed back to 2035 back to 2030, so they're pulling it in.
yes,
And yet the
yes,
European one, everybody wants to push it even further back because they've got it at 2035 and they want further and further and further.
that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
there are conflicting directions going on.
Yeah.
absolutely. So what do you
I
Um,
also,
think?
well, can I say, I also think that 2030 it's I don't know, as a deadline for it for the UK, I think it's impossible. What do you think, Gary?
I think it's probably impossible, but perhaps it's a target that will push things forward somehow in some kind of panic mode, and will probably be missed. But yeah, I find it hard to see how that's going to happen by
Yeah.
2030.
It
Um,
reminds me a little bit about you guys might remember the year 2000 bug.
yeah,
The year
Everybody
two,
was
I mean,
panicking.
yeah,
for, yeah,
Gary's
for,
maybe not as
for,
old as us, Paul.
I'm old enough to remember that. I am.
yeah, he's old enough to remember for about 10 years before the year 2000, the whole of the computer industry and everyone was talking about the year 2000 bug.
Yeah.
But everyone was talking about it, but not many people were doing anything about it, especially, 10 years before. And it actually took until almost the last minute before everyone started to take action. So maybe that's what will happen with the cars. People say we've got 5 years, we don't have to do anything, and
Mm,
then we've
mm.
only got 6 months left. Let's do something, perhaps.
Yes. Y- Yes. One of the problems, though, with that is that for car manufacturers, they work on very long lead times.
Yeah,
So
Mhm.
car manufacturers need 5 to 10 years to change what they're doing.
that's true.
Well, here's a
And
question, Gary. Since you teach technical English, functional English to German learners of
mm,
English, are those
mm.
German learners mostly within the automotive industry?
I teach quite a lot of them within that industry. Yes. Yeah, I do. So I speak to Germans about these issues that they're
Yeah.
facing quite often.
And what are they expressing? What are they saying?
Um, how can I summarize what they're saying? I think mostly people talk about the competition from China because that's what's
Right.
most on their minds, is
Yeah.
that China leads the way in electric vehicles now, biggest manufacturer of electric vehicles.
Hmm.
Therefore, Germany can't sell its electric vehicles to China anymore,
Hmm.
and has suddenly realized if it wants to sell them, it's got to sell them at home in Germany and the EU.
Hmm.
And that's then focusing their attention on the whole issue of, well, when are people really going to start buying electric vehicles?
Right.
When they're a
So
bit more cost effective, I think.
exactly, yeah. So they're
Mm.
talking about these issues which go round and round in a circle, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is an interesting sort of thing to sort of discuss or think about. If you think maybe back 10 years, nobody in say in Europe or in America was buying Chinese vehicles. Chinese vehicles were
No, that's right.
considered
Yes,
inferior,
they were.
just 10 years ago.
They were.
Yeah. Um, but somehow over the past sort of, probably not even 10 years, probably even 5 years, Chinese vehicles have become acceptable on an equal par with German made
Absolutely.
vehicles
Yeah.
from Volkswagen, Mercedes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the likes. And that's happened very, very quickly. So
Yeah.
in the past, we dominated the car manufacturing industries, but now China is dominant, I think.
I think it's taken everyone by surprise.
Yeah.
But Gary, you drive a Japanese electric
Oh
vehicle.
yeah. Yes, you're right. Yes. Made in the UK, actually.
Ah, right,
Oh,
okay.
well done.
By
Well done,
by,
well done.
Nis-
Yes, yes, yes.
by Nissan UK turns them out in the northeast. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, Toyota and Nissan are also in the game as well. But yeah, it's dominated now by the big Chinese manufacturers, BYD especially.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I've heard Germans say that now the quality is as good as, if not better than German cars.
And
Whoa,
they're
that's
cheaper.
shocking.
And
And they're
cheaper.
cheaper as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because they're subsidized by the Chinese government.
Ah. We changed our vehicle, didn't we? 12 months
Yeah.
ago. Our lovely Volkswagen camper van of 20 years,
Oh,
a
oh
nice
wow.
diesel that still played
Wow.
cassettes. It
Yeah, that's a
died. It
classic.
finally
Yeah.
died. Yeah, it
Oh,
was. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. I was so upset. It was like losing
Yeah.
my
When
arm.
it was diesel, when you started it, big clouds of black smoke out the
yeah, it's
back.
like a,
But it started every time. But anyway, we changed to a petrol, but we went and had a look at some of the electric vehicles. Honest to God, Gary,
oh,
they cost more than our house cost. There was no way on this planet we could afford one.
Yeah.
you mean camper
Particularly
vans or
the
just ordinary
no.
cars?
No, we were looking at the vans. Rachel
Yeah.
wanted, what was it called? With the
A
Volkswagen
Volkswagen
Buzz.
Buzz. It was
Mm, mm.
100,000
Oh
euros,
wow. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it was like, oh no, oh never mind. Well, then it's a dream.
If we
Like
were
dreams.
rich, if when we've won the lottery, we're gonna buy one, obviously.
Yeah.
Two, one each.
Oh, we're gonna
Yeah.
buy two, okay. Yeah. But it's crazy. There's no way we could have afforded 100,000 for a vehicle.
No.
No, that
Even though it's
has
a
been
top
one of
vehicle.
the big barriers to people buying these vehicles. And as I said before, the other barrier really is the lack of good charging infrastructure, which
Yeah.
I think the only country which has really cracked that is Norway.
Really?
Which, oh yeah, yeah, Norway has something like 95% of new vehicles are electric already, and fantastic
Wow.
infrastructure, but it's got a small population.
Yeah.
Italy have got a thing on the motorway where they're saying that you'll only have to travel for 45 minutes to the next service station with fast charging. They're upgrading all of the service
Have
stations on the
they?
motorway. So if you're on the
Have
motorway, you're
they? Yeah.
fine. But once you get off the
Ah,
motorway, then it's a little bit problematic.
No, hang on a
yes.
second. We live
Ah,
in a small village in the middle of the mountains in central Italy, and we have two electric car charging points.
hmm
Nobody has
hmm
an electric car, but we have two
You've
electric
got
car
the
charging
point.
points.
You're ready.
Yeah.
But you can charge them at home. I charge
Yeah.
mine at home
Yeah.
on a normal plug. In the UK, we have
Wow. A
three
three
pin
pin.
plugs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Plug it into the garage
That's
Yeah.
overnight.
amazing.
Yeah.
So the question is, Gary, how long will you keep your Nissan Leaf? How long is the lifespan of an electric vehicle?
We don't really know. I think my battery is guaranteed for 8 years from new, and it's now 7 years old. But in perfect condition.
Oh,
So I think nobody really knows because they haven't been around for long enough
right.
to know when we should change them.
hmm
That's true.
Right. And there's no
Yeah.
rule or regulation that you have to change. Like, for example, I
No.
had a GPL petrol car, didn't I? A Fiat
Yeah.
Seicento. And every 10 years you had to change the gas bomber, the
The gas
gas
tank.
canister. Even if there was nothing wrong with it, you were obligated to switch it out, which was a
hmm
pig. It really was. I mean,
Yeah.
is there anything like that on batteries in electric vehicles?
No, there isn't. It's only that you might find at a certain point the battery starts to degrade, and
Right.
therefore the range that you can drive is less,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
therefore you have to make a decision about, well, do you then sell the car?
Hmm.
Do you need a new battery? But there's not
Hmm.
really, as far as I know, a system of replacing batteries at the moment.
Hmm.
There may be
Okay.
later.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe just swap the battery in 5 years'
You say
time.
swap the battery, but it's not a single battery, is it, Gary? It's a lot of batteries in the chassis
Um,
somewhere.
yeah, it's a lot of cells
Yeah.
combined into one battery.
Yeah.
It's quite big.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
actually changing the cells would require almost taking your car to pieces to get access to all
Might
the
do.
different cells and changing them. Yeah. So it's not going to be an
Might
easy
do.
thing to do.
No, no. Wait and see. But all cars depreciate anyway,
Yeah.
so in value. So
Okay.
it's the same as that, I suppose.
Right.
Well, I
Well,
suppose
I
we'll have to
think,
see, won't we? In
yeah.
2030, we'll have to see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yes, and
2035 if you're in
see
Europe,
what happens in
2040.
Europe in
Mm.
2035. Yes, whether the car industry in Europe manages to push it back
Hmm.
as they want to, or make compromises as they want to.
Hmm. But it's a
Yeah,
two very good articles for the same topic, but from different points of view. And
yeah.
I had to look up ICE because I didn't know what an ICE ban was.
There's
But now
quite a
you
lot of
know. Now you.
acronyms and jargon around this.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay.
But now you
All
Mm,
know.
right. Well,
Now
look,
you can talk about ICE vehicles for the rest of your life.
I'll do that,
exactly.
Paul. Right. Well, Gary, thank you so much for being the guest on this week's episode. We'll broadcast your podcast so everybody can listen to your own episodes as well, and hopefully connect with you. And maybe we'll get together and connect together on another episode another time.
I'd love to.
Perfect.
It was a pleasure to be here, so thank you very much.
All right. Thanks very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. We hope you liked our podcast, and please don't forget to subscribe and stay connected with us. Until next time, goodbye.